Welcome to the Collector Cave, and today we have a review of a figure that I could not wait to get in Darkseid. This is by Mcfarlane Toys, the DC Multiverse version of it, or as it says here, DC Classics. But for me, growing up, I had a lot of Superpowers figures, DC Superpowers figures, which was a comic run that I believe was written by Jack Kirby, but he only did the cover artwork. He didn't do the interior artwork. But it was their way to try and get their figures into toys, like Star Wars and GI Joe lines were doing so well at the time. And so I have a lot of good memories, with the Superpowers toys, the Secret Wars toys, and Darkseid was one of the Superpowers figures I had. And this is kind of a direct descendant of that. It's a little different than the Superpowers version, but I mean, nostalgia-wise, it's almost identical in that way. And so I couldn't wait to get this guy. I got him from BBTS. Just came in the other day. He was initially sold out real quick, and they got more orders in. He's available as of this posting for $39.99 on BBTS and probably other places too. There is one glaring issue with this figure, which we'll get into. I've watched some videos, but I'm so excited to have this figure. As I said, this brings back a lot of childhood memories for me playing with Superpowers as a kid. And the look, they nailed the look of that Superpowers figure in the comic. And I'm so excited. This is a huge box too by Mcfarlane, massive box. And here's the back artwork, which is just fantastic. I love this. Again, I don't think this is actually Kirby's artwork, but it's that same type of look, kind of a bronze Silver Age look for Darkseid. I think Darkseid came about in the Silver Age, right? It's that early 70s, I think. But this emotes that feeling. Maybe this is Mcfarlane. I don't know who did this drawing, but it looks like Kirby, but it's not Kirby. Regardless, man, the feelings I get when I see this is just, man, it's all sorts of awesome nostalgic vibes. So I couldn't wait to get this guy. So we look at it. It's got 22 points of articulation. It is for ages 12 and up. And it doesn't say choking hazard, but I'd imagine there's some small parts here, the hands and the head. So be careful with little ones, 3 years and younger. And then the bottom of the box gives you the UPC. I've got it upside down right now, but that's it. So let's get this guy unpackaged and take a closer look. All right, and here is Darkseid and everything he comes with within the package. You get the figure, you get an additional head sculpt, you get 2 more hands, a second fist, so you have 2 fists, you have a pointing finger, and then this open hand. And then, of course, the DC base, which has the DC logo on it, like all Mcfarlane toys come with. And then you get a cool collector card of Darkseid with that awesome, Silver Age drawing there. On the back, I'll read it real quick just because I love Darkseid. Real name, non-applicable. In the known DC universe, one name stands above all others when it comes to supreme villainy, Darkseid. Ruling over the hellish world of Apocalypse, Darkseid doesn't merely mean to conquer a planet or subjugate his enemies. He seeks to rob the entire universe of its free will and replace it with his own. Epic. What a cool card. That is so cool. And then here is the second head sculpt, which looks really good. Now, with the original Superpowers figure, they had a red light pipe in the top of the head. And so when you put light over him, the red eyes would glow because it was a piece of plastic going down. And I thought it would have been a cool touch if they would have done that, at least with this head sculpt. Done the red light piping on top, even though you see it. I mean, as a kid, that play value was so much fun. I remember waking up early at my grandma's house, a specific memory. Waking up early at my grandma's house, pulling out my Super Friends figures and playing with Darkseid. And I remember the sun coming in and me using the sun to light his eyes up with that light piping. So a very specific memory I have from this. And you probably have your own memories too. But anyway, this is a really good looking head sculpt. We'll look at it closer on the head. But it just pops into place, but pretty cool. And then the extra hands, you get the extra fist, which is just all painted blue, but it looks good, like a gloved fist. And then he has the pointing fist, which is kind of cool. They decided to give Darkseid, different types of hands, not just typical grasping hands, right? And then here is the figure himself, and it looks really fantastic. Here is the the omega beams coming out of his eyes, and this is kind of a different way. I've never really seen it this way before. They actually have it coming out of the top of his eyebrow here. Typically you see them coming out and they go all different ways, but here McFarlane decided to do a little different than like what we've got in previous iterations of this figure, and it looks cool. Definitely a cool look. You know, you have the rock-like structure of Darkseid, the gray skin. I will say, from what I saw, that this is a reuse of at least the arms from a Build-A-Figure, because you shouldn't have veins on Darkseid. So that kind of bums me out. I mean, it looks like rock. They've done a good job with that, but I just feel like they didn't need to do the veins. But other than that, this looks a lot like the old Superpowers figure from the 80s. It even has the Darkseid medallion with a nice wired cape, and it also has wire on the bottom. So I don't get a whole lot of McFarlane figures, but nice to see that McFarlane is adding wire to his capes. Getting kind of a higher end scale there, like you see in a Mezco type figure. So that's kind of nice. And the cape is shiny. I don't know what type of material this is, but it's maybe like a rayon type of material. But yeah, it's really nice. And then otherwise, the look is very simple, very Kirby-esque, which I love. The white plain belt. It's hard to tell on the camera, but in person, it's almost like a gray dry brush on his muscles here. But what I think it is this figure was painted gray as a base, and they put the blue over it. And I feel like it's kind of coming through, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. It's really hard to see in the camera. It looks fine in the camera, but in real life, it's a little more white or grayish than I would like to see on the tunic like that. And then there's his huge, you know, massive boots he has. Looks really great. Articulation-wise, here's where some issues come into play. And I already had to use a blow dryer to kind of heat up some of these joints. But we'll go over articulation. So head is, I think it's a ball joint. I haven't taken the head off yet, but he looks down pretty good. And looks back sort of good. The headpiece hits the back there a little bit from side to side. Then of course he can rotate his head, but not very much. Oh, there we go. It's just a little tight. He can rotate his head, but it's pretty tight. And then the arms, and here's where the issue comes in with this figure. These arms fall out of this ball socket really easy, and a lot of people are frustrated by this design. It's almost like this was a Build-A-Figure. Because I believe the thighs, you know, plug in like a Build-A-Figure leg does. And these arms pop out so easy. So it's a little disappointing that McFarlane didn't do a better job on the engineering of this figure, with it not being a bath, with it not being a Build-A-Figure. But let's see if they fall out. For articulation, it goes up 90. They rotate. You can see the gap there of where they move in. And then here's where I had to use a heat gun, because these are really tight. They're ratcheted joints, super, super tight to try and move. I'm really afraid I'm going to break it. And then the fist is a ball hinge joint. You can see that big old hinge there, but it gives it good mobility, pretty good mobility. The waist is on a ball joint, and you can't really turn a whole lot because he's so massive. But you get a little bit, and then you can rock it from side to side a bit. As far as looking down, that's about all he does. And then going back, he goes back a little bit farther than he goes forward. It's not a very good range, but look, with these big figures, I don't expect really good articulation. I know a lot of people do. I don't. And I think with people like Darkseid or really big villains, you don't need to have crazy articulation to make them look fantastic on a shelf or in a pose. With that said, let's go to the thighs, and there's literally nothing. I get about that much. I'm afraid to push it because his thigh muscles, even though this area here is like a rubbery plastic, it gives some, but not a whole lot. So that's about all you get. And the thighs do twist a little bit, just a bit. And of course the knees are double jointed, and they're on ratchets. At least it feels like it. Maybe not, but it felt like it. And then ball hinge ankles and toe articulation, which was also stuck. I had to really work to get that to unlock. And then there's the bottom of the boot with just whatever it says, made in China probably. Yeah, made in China. But yeah, so articulation, not the best, but I'm okay. For me personally, it's not a deal breaker for me because I just want to be able to pose this guy in a simple pose on my shelf in my little Darkseid space and be done with it. Let's change this head out. I'll try doing it on camera. I don't know how hard it is to pull this thing off. Oh yeah, I'm doing it off camera. It's difficult. Okay, honestly, it wasn't too bad to pull off, but there's the ball hinge joint that comes up out of the neck, and you can kind of see the cape. I've seen a video where someone took this apart. The medallion is glued onto his chest. So if you want to remove the cape, the problem is the medallion, you're going to have some like marking there on his chest. So if you can figure that out, good luck. But I mean, this Darkseid in the Superpowers run had the cape, so it suits him. So I don't know why you want to take it off, honestly. Even though traditionally Darkseid doesn't really have a cape. Okay, this is tough. Let me pause. Okay, I know his head really isn't in all the way, and I'm gonna have to heat it up because it's just so hard to push that head on. And as you can see, this arm, when I was trying to put the head on, the arm just fell out. It looks like a good ball joint, but it just doesn't go in good enough. So it pops in, but it pops in too easy. That's why they come off so easy. And I've seen other people have problems with his legs coming off. I haven't had this happen on mine yet. I'm sure it will. But I'm not as annoyed by this as most people were in reviews because it's only happened now twice for me. And if it falls off, I don't know, I just pop it back on. Like, it's unacceptable QC-wise that it got through. I do agree with that, but this is not a deal breaker for me with this figure by no means. So let me heat this head up and put it on and see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm having real difficulty with his head going on. I heated it up with a hairdryer, the ball socket inside. And I know it's not completely on. It looks like it is, but it's if I try and give him, yeah, it's not on completely. So it's really difficult to get this second head to go on. Just FYI, in case you have this figure, it might be challenging for a kid, you know, maybe to change these parts out, except for these arms, which come off super easy. Look at that. I just pulled it right out. Yeah, bad QC on this figure, unfortunately. I mean, other than that, I like it a lot. And again, it's not a game breaker for me, but it's just disappointing that Mcfarlane didn't do a good enough job. And now it doesn't seem to want to, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, but it is what it is, I guess, right? $40 figure this size. In fact, how tall is Darkseid? Let's get a measurement here and see what he comes in at. I think he's probably be about 9 inches or so. Yeah, he's right at 9 inches. Yep, 9 inches exactly. So that's good size. That's about accurate. You know, Mcfarlane figures are 7 inches. So, you know, Darkseid's obviously bigger than most of these characters you're going to see. So that's about accurate. Let's do a couple poses now. Okay, here's Darkseid with a nice, simple, you know, iron fist pose. You can cheat the hands going behind the back, but they really don't, unfortunately, with this figure, the way it's designed. That's as far as I can get the elbow to go in. And there's no ball, no bicep swivel, so you can't really get the arm to move to go behind the back, which is kind of disappointing. That's the one thing I'm bummed out with, because I'd like to see Darkseid with his hands behind his back, or at least one behind his back. But again, you can cheat it with the camera, or stand on your shelf kind of like this, and it looks like he kind of has his hand behind his back a little bit. Still really cool pose with that fist. Okay, now this pose is kind of, I looked at the original card backer for the Superpowers Darkseid from the 80s, and this is kind of the pose he has on the card, and it says Power Action Raging Motion and Omega Effect Eyes. That was the little blurb on the Superpowers card. So yeah, really cool. You would squeeze his legs and his arms would move with the Superpowers figure. This one, you squeeze his legs and they probably fall off. Here we are. That's where we are in 2024 compared to 1985, right? Let's try a couple more. Okay, I got the Omega Beam eyes back on, and here he is pointing, maybe pointing at Superman or someone, telling him it's game over. Yeah, cool looking figure. I got his cape kind of flowing up as well too. The cape is really nice. The wire is actually pretty good. It's not a cheap gauge. It holds the cape nicely, so you can get some really good wind-blowing effects with this cape, I think. So man, I have to say, I don't collect a lot of, you know, Mcfarlane anymore or Hasbro, but seeing Mcfarlane use a wired fabric cape with some of their figures now is is nice to see. And it's pretty good quality for the $40 price point this figure is, which I think is nice to see. So, you know, for a parent, that might be a lot of money. For a kid, but boy, if I got this figure as a kid, I would lose it. It'd be awesome. I'm excited now, and I'm not a kid anymore. Maybe a kid at heart, right? Like all of us. So yeah, I think he looks really good. You know, he's not perfect, but I'm so happy we got this from Mcfarlane. Let's do some comparisons. Well, before we do that, let's zoom in really close and look at this head sculpt, because I haven't shown this head sculpt off yet. So the paint apps are really good. You can even see his teeth have been molded. You can see the different color gray on his lips. And then Omega Beam coming out. It's like there's a piece coming out of his eyebrow ridge there, which is kind of different. Unless they just did that so it would stick and not, you know, fall off or break off. But this is, you gotta be careful. It's kind of a rubbery plastic, so it should hold up pretty well, but this piece is a little more firm, so it could possibly break or pop out of that eye. I'm not sure how it's connected to the eyes. But yeah, really good look with that head. So let's do some comparisons now. So here's Darkseid next to another DC Collectibles figure, and that is the Riddler. And as you can see, he towers over the Riddler. Riddler comes in just under 7 inches. Typical Mcfarlane figure size for this DC Collectibles. And Darkseid's like 9 inches, so 2 more inches. But he looks bigger than that, just because he's how tall he is. And the base is actually the same size. The base on the right's the Darkseid. This one's the Riddler. And as you can see, he doesn't come with a bigger base. I haven't even tried using the base. Why don't we try doing that and see? I mean, he stands good in his own, but put the base down on here. So it just kind of gives a little more extra help. I will say this ankle here is getting loose already, which is not a good sign for a figure this big and this heavy. So that's a little disappointing. So hopefully he doesn't topple over. Let's do some more comparisons. So I've added Clayface into the mix, and as you can see, he's actually taller than Clayface. Clayface comes in about 8.5 inches. And, you know, just seeing Clayface sitting out, I thought Clayface was taller until I put him next to Darkseid. So, you know, obviously Clayface can get bigger if you wanted to, but this is kind of accurate representation as well in the comics. Let's see what else we got. Okay, and there's a Mezco Robert Pattinson Batman, and he looks like it looks so small in comparison to Darkseid. Of course, you know, Mezco are more of a 1/12 scale, so like closer to 6 inches. So that's why he looks so small. But honestly, I don't think that comparison's too bad. Maybe Darkseid's a little bit taller. So I think they scale pretty good. I think the Mcfarlane, you know, size is 7 inches, so they scale with themselves. It's tough to throw in an SHF or a Mezco or a Mafex figure because they're a little too small. But I think because of Darkseid, it might work. But boy, Battinson looks small there. Okay, and here's a cool comparison. Here is the Mezco Darkseid, which, man, is still one of my favorite Mezco figures of all time. I absolutely love their Mezco Darkseid. Another Kirby-esque looking figure. And the Mezco one's much shorter, because again, it's a 1/12 scale, but Mezco comes in just under 8 inches. So it's 1 inch difference, but it looks much bigger. The Mcfarlane figure looks a lot bigger than just 1 inch taller, but side by side, these look pretty cool. All right, and here's kind of his Marvel counterpart in Thanos. This is also by Mezco, and Thanos comes in at 8 inches as well, about the same size as Darkseid, the Mezco Darkseid. But as you can see, the Mcfarlane Darkseid towers over both of these figures. And I'm just sitting here. I also have this King I just reviewed. This is a Marvel Legends King. It comes in at 6 inches. And as you can see there, King is pretty tiny. But I think overall, they scale pretty well. At least Hasbro and Mezco do for the most part. But boy, it's cool seeing these big bads by each other. Let's add one more figure in. Okay, I've added a Mezco Dr. Doom. He's about 7 inches. And man, seeing all these bad guys together is awesome. Love it. Love seeing this. So I think that's pretty accurate too. Although the Mezco Doom and and Darkseid are probably closer in size. But you know, I've seen movies like in Justice League movie, Darkseid seemed really tall in that movie to me, whereas Kirby didn't draw him as tall typically, but still bigger than an average human for the most part. Okay, so at the end of the day, is this Darkseid worth it? For $39.99, and for me personally, yes, because this is probably my favorite DC villain. Him or Riddler, my favorite DC villain. And this goes back to my childhood, as I mentioned, the superpowers line that I played with as a kid. Still have most of those. I do have my superpowers Darkseid. I just can't find him right now. And I may do a video of all my Darkseid stuff because I've got quite a bit of figures, other type of stuff. So I might do a video of that in the near future if you guys want to see that. But yeah, it comes with 2 head sculpts, so you can go either way you want. Both head sculpts look really good. Zoom into this one a little bit, and this head sculpt looks pretty good if I can focus. Yeah, very nice. So yeah, for 40 bucks, I think it's absolutely worth it. It is frustrating that the arms fall off so easy. My legs haven't come apart yet, but I've seen other videos where they have. So just keep that in mind. It can be a little frustrating. Maybe if you have a kid playing with this toy, it might come apart on them. So you have to show them how to put them back together again. But when, you know, once you get them posed up and you get them how you want them, the arm's not going to fall off on its own. It's going to be okay. It's just when you're in the middle of playing with them and moving around that stuff might happen. But overall, I'm satisfied with this. I'm so glad they got more in because I missed the first run. It was sold out immediately. And I'm glad to say that I own this figure. So thank you, Todd McFarlane, for going this route. It brings me back to my childhood, which for me, this is what a lot of this is about. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. You know, give me a like, comment, subscribe. I love to talk about this stuff. What do you guys think of this figure versus the other versions of Darkseid that have come out? I do have a few more versions that are packed away for this video, but yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts. And until next time, this has been McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Darkseid.